Attendance. So I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting up. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 2021 Ward 5 meeting. We now have more people than we've ever had at any ward meeting that I'm aware of. So, and the fact that it's through Zoom, I know that there's more than just one person at a computer in some of these households. So what my agenda is tonight is I'm going to do a quick introduction of the people that are on the panel. I will then go to Dave Knott, who is the developer that's looking at developing Browning. This ward meeting is going to be strictly about Browning. By the amount of attendees, if we try to add anything else in, we're looking at a long, long night. I'm going to try to keep this to under an hour and a half. People's time is valuable, and there are a lot of people here. We want to get the questions answered, so please refrain from asking the same question twice. We will get some questions answered later. I will actually ask some questions that were submitted to me. A lot of them were multiple questions of the same, basically meaning the same. So kind of paraphrasing some of them, and we're going to go from there. So first, introductions. I'm Dan Anderson. I'm your Ward 5 councilman. We have the mayor, we have Bob Fiala, we have the developer, we have Dave Knott, we have Daryl Keller, who is our chief building official. We have our economic development man, Tom Thielman, and then we have some councilmen with us. We got Bob Card, Dan Gary, and John Tomaselli. So with that being said, I want to give a quick introduction to Dave Knott before I hand it over to him. Dave Knott is a Ward 5 resident, and this is where it gets interesting. He's not just somebody that's coming into our neighborhood trying to, get one over people. So I want to give him the opportunity to talk. I want to give him the opportunity to explain what he would like to do. I know a lot of people are upset about this, and there's some people that are not. So we're going to try to be as cordial as we could to each other. I don't want to have to mute people. We want to try to get this, like I said, over in an hour and a half. So Dave Knott, if you would like to take over and give us a little introduction about what your plan is for Browning.
Well, I actually spent quite a bit of time to put together a little more information here because it is such a personal situation. I live in the neighborhood, and as it is for the neighbors. And I wanted to kind of go through the chain of events about the project, some history about it, and finally get into what our intentions are. I'm one of 4 partners in the project, which I'll explain a little more too. And hopefully I can, this will shed a little more light on what our goals are here and our objectives are, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, we're all here to discuss Browning School. The chain of events as follows. Browning School auction August 25th, 2020 at 1 o'clock by Keepo Auctioneer. The school was purchased by myself on that day as hot bidder. Had to close on the school in 45 days, approved by the Willoughby East Lake School Board. The school is owned by the Willoughby East Lake School System. The school is approximately 98 to 100 years of age. It's basically for all purpose a historical landmark building. The school was closed approximately 25 years ago, which was 1996. Once the school was closed, the school was used as a senior center for just a year ago. I've lived in the neighborhood for 35 years. I live 1 block away from the school. I've lived in Willoughby for 52 years. I graduated from Willoughby South in 1975. I have 5 boys that I raised in this neighborhood. If you went to Browning, we're all graduating from Willoughby South High School. I know this neighborhood quite well. I could not think of a better place to have raised a family, and I now have 3 grandsons. My background, I've been in the building and development industry for 46 years. My reputation in the industry and with the building department is excellent. As I mentioned, on August 25th, 2020, Browning School was auctioned. Now, months before, there was advertising and signs posted that the Willoughby East Lake School was going to auction off a number of buildings, with Browning being one of them. All I heard for 2 months was we need to save the school. As the time got closer, there was still no plan by this neighborhood on how to save the school, and was this neighborhood willing to invest their own money to save the school? It did not look promising. I spoke to a few people. Not much interest, not much was willing to invest to save the school. It was apparent to me that there was nobody willing to put up any money to save the school. I believe I'm the only person in this neighborhood that showed up the day of the auction and actually bid on the school. I was having some second thoughts at the auction as it prepared to ramp up. And in my mind, I'm saying, should I get involved or not? This was the question around in my mind just before the auction. It's an old school, it's tired, it needs lots of upgrades and renovation. Do I need to put myself personally through this long and lengthy effort it's going to take to revitalize the school? The time and the amount of money it's going to take, the entire process, was it worth it, was the question. Being I've been in the building industry many years, most of the developers and builders that were there, and I knew and I personally heard what most of their intentions were. Tearing down the school was their intentions in building housing. Tear the school down, cram and slam as many houses that they could fit to make the most money that they could squeeze out of the neighborhood. The current zoning is R60. That means
Hey,
that
Dave.
yes.
Hey, Dave, can you move back just a little bit? We're having a little bit of an audio.
Can you hear me?
That might help it.
Is
Yeah,
that
that's good. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better.
all right?
Thank you.
The current zoning is R60. That means that 60-foot wide lots are the norm and allowed under the current zoning. That's 100% under today's current zoning. If the school comes down, they can squeeze in 80, 60-foot wide lots in homes. If they're real aggressive, they may even attempt to extend Center Street to get potentially many more homes. They may look at trying to get condos, row housing, many ways to look at the best way to get as many lots and houses to get the best yield. About money, not what's in the best interest of this neighborhood or this special historical building. Why would they do this? Because it's an outstanding neighborhood, a wonderful city, wonderful community, a good quality government base. We are one of the best police and fire department forces in Northern Ohio. We all know we are truly blessed to have such a wonderful neighborhood. I know this firsthand. I've lived here a long time. But none of these interested parties have vested interest in this neighborhood or the concern of the impact it will have on this neighborhood, short-term or long-term. We must ask ourselves, do we want to preserve this historical building that's been in this location for the last 100 years? Is demolishing this historical building to add a minimum of 4 more houses worth it? My personal thought is part of the Willoughby history, this community history, this neighborhood history. As the bidding started, my emotions took over, not knowing what to do with the school yet. I was not going to let anybody tear down this historical building and put some houses on it in its place. This historical school deserved a better finish. Do I care about this neighborhood? You better believe it. I showed up alone by myself. Unfortunately, I was high bidder, and yes, I came to save the school. I have some positive past business history in the city of Willoughby. I've always tried to leave something good behind for my efforts. Back in 1994 and 1995, the downtown Willoughby stretch of buildings was very quiet and not much going on. I was involved in a partnership with 2 other families, Mike and Bonnie Credico, who still live in this neighborhood, and Dave and Mary Gromowski. We purchased the old substation building on Glen Avenue. The project name was the restaurant called Gobby's. My wife, Kim, and I were one of the 3 original partners. If you lived in the city as long as I have, we all know the history and positive impact that project Willoughby brought to the city at that time. The project jump-started the entire downtown area. Many people questioned the five-star restaurant in Willoughby being a destination restaurant. It was hidden behind all the buildings. Would it survive? Could it survive? The answer is a big yes. I was interviewed by the News Herald. I said, it's like the Field of Dreams. I said, if we build it, they will come. And yes, they did. Willoughby's had a great run. If you wanted a weekend dinner, you had to book a month in advance. We were voted in 1996 the best new restaurant in the city of Cleveland. And all these other eateries started to pop up, what we now see today, which was stimulated from the Willoughby's project. So for my efforts, I did leave something good behind that had a positive impact on the city. I would also say that our past mayor, Dave Anderson, should get a big thank you for his effort helping us back then, as should my partners, Bonnie and Mike Predico, that never got the credit they deserve for the commitment, effort, money invested, and belief in this city that we both gave. Still give this day, and yes, they still live in the neighborhood. I've had many experiences like this in my life. My hero is Walt Disney. He had a great saying, if you can dream it, you can do it. There's also another very special, important person in my life that had a major impact on my life and a mentor to me. His name is Daryl Keller, very special wife to me and family. Dow is the reason I'm in the construction industry today. It just so happens that Dow, Jeffrey, and family lived right next door to where I lived at this time in Willoughby for 20 years. Dal knows this neighborhood as well as anybody. His three kids went to Browning. His sister is still very involved with maintaining the Christian Science Church to this day, as was his mother, father, when he was alive. The theme for this project has to be a very special and selected group of individuals that would have the same passion for it as I do, to ensure its ability to succeed. Please understand, I've lived in this neighborhood for 35 years and plan on staying here for the rest of my life. It's obvious I care more than a lot of people in this neighborhood. I showed up willing to provide the effort to jump in and to save the school, and put a positive plan in place to protect the school, the neighborhood, and leave something good that will have a positive impact for this long time to come. I knew right away who the group would be. Obviously, Dal Jeffrey and his son, Dan Jeffrey. Dan himself, which is Dal's son, went to Browning. Dal himself raised his family for 20 years. They both care, they both respect and appreciate and very much understand this neighborhood, Dal and his son. Dal's background in the construction industry is nothing less than absolutely stellar. 56-year career, was president of one of the largest commercial general contractors in the city of Cleveland. Very well respected to this day in Northeast Ohio in the construction community. As they say, the apple does not fall far from the tree. His son Dan has many of his father's attributes, qualities, and construction knowledge. We brought a fourth partner in Brad Poet with many years and additional knowledge in the building industry. He's a real estate company owner and president. Has many he's the owner of apartments and other buildings. Many years of knowledge and highly respected. He's added to this team for his wealth of knowledge. So we've assembled an all-star team of talented partners put together to help give Browning School a real chance to be a winner. Now, past uses over the last 100 years. Until approximately 1996, it was a great school that had approximately 400 students with approximately 35 employees inside, from teachers, nurses, principals, etc. There's 78 parking spaces. You had 400 screaming kids from morning, lunch, recess, playground throughout the day. Teachers leaving after they've corrected their homework, maybe leaving 5 or 6. Parking lot was full. Bus deliveries, food deliveries, PTA meetings, parents' nights, sports functions, plays. On certain family school events, the parking was not only full, people even had to park in the street at times. Browning School was a busy place in the neighborhood for the first 75 years. It's also been used for government voting over the last years, from morning to late evening, as we all know, with a very busy traffic flow in and out throughout the day. In the last 25 years, it's been a senior center with at times 25 to 100 people in and out, socializing, and do what seniors enjoy doing. Hours 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., at times with the parking lot filled to capacity of 78 cars. I believe it's safe to say through most of Browning's past, the school has been a busy place the past 100 years for people to live their lives in different capacities and functions for the Willoughby community and this neighborhood. Now that brings me to this next very important item. We have donated the entire playground, swings, picnic tables, everything back to the city of Willoughby for the children to be reused when the city sees fit. There are a lot of rumors floating around out there, and I'm going to explain what is the real truth and a successful plan we have come up with. We have a long-term successful plan for the school that will have a positive impact on the neighborhood and this community. From the research effort provided to us by experts, there's a group of people and empty nesters that would very much like to live in a quality neighborhood, normal neighborhood things, feel safe, go for walks, go for a bike ride, be able to walk downtown for a coffee or an ice cream cone, but very much like to live in a high quality apartment facility. And at the same time, be privileged to have opportunity to live in a quality neighborhood. With that being said, this partnership group committed to restoring the school and create a 26 high quality apartment complex, 21 bedrooms, and 6 2-bedrooms. 4 of the 2-bedroom units will be 2-level loft units where the auditorium is located. We're going to invest over $3 million into this building restoration. This is a major investment by this partnership into this neighborhood and into this community. Rents will range in the $1,400 to $1,800 a month range. We put in a great deal of time and effort and hard work to come up with a plan to upgrade the entire school. Being it's a historical building, we are not changing any exterior elements of the school, but enhancing and fixing needed, neglected building items. Being that the school has always been Browning School, my partners Daryl and Judy Jeffrey came up with the name. They have named the apartment complex the Browning Place. Scope of work as follows. The Browning Place building will remain as is. There's no additions going on to school. They're going to upgrade certain exterior items. Example, get rid of the 24 wall air conditioning, steam hanging through the windows, remove the old HVAC unit sitting on the ground that's the size of a bus. We're basically cleaning up the exterior and bringing it back to a much cleaner look and appearance. The Browning Place is going to be an upscale apartment complex. All the existing heating, plumbing, electrical, lighting are going to be totally removed and totally replaced with brand new. Each apartment will have its own new separate HVAC system, electrical, and all new plumbing system. Each unit will have all new plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures. The main gas water feeds into the building are going to be replaced and upgraded. The apartments will all have new cabinetry and granite countertops. All the apartments will have all new flooring and all new drywall ceilings. All the main corridors will also be totally revamped. Bike storage areas with a number of professional type workspaces will be provided. The main objective is the school is going to be get a facelift and enhanced, but no architectural change is going to occur of any kind. No additional building is going to be added. It's going to look like the school bulb, but looking again and not running. But new looking again and not running downward. New landscaping will be added around the different parts of the school. Exterior facade brick will be retuck pointed where tension is needed. To the playground area. The playground area is approximately 240 feet across. They're going to build just 3 houses, 80-foot wide lots. As was explained, the zoning in that area is R60. We could go with 4 60-foot wide lots to build 4 houses. We chose not to. The houses in the lots across the street are 80-foot wide. We felt it was more important to stay consistent with the neighborhood, so we eliminated 1 lot in the house right out of the gate. The sublot that will be closest to the school parking lot is going to get a 20-foot green space from the frontage on Glen Avenue all the way back to the rear property fence line. We are achieving that by removing 18 parking spaces, removing the asphalt into a grass space with some newly planted deciduous type trees that will add some nice canopies, add more green softness to that area for long-term purpose. As I explained, the school has a total of 78 parking spaces. By removing the 18 spaces for the green space, it reduces parking down to 60 parking spaces. Under today's building department building codes, and having 26 apartments, you're required to have 45 parking spaces. We've added another 15 spaces for guest parking, deliveries, and so on. That brings our parking total to 60. That does not include even any on-street parking that exists. So in closing, for the lifetime of this school building and its daily use, it's always been a very active place for people throughout the day in this neighborhood, from school to a senior center. The new upscale apartment complex, the Browning Place, is going to be a much less active place in the future, much quieter, with much less traffic than any time in its past history. This is a very positive use for the school. It's going to get a major investment in facelift to enhance and give it the ability to be productive again and useful again, which will be a win-win for the neighborhood and the community. By leaving the school, there will be no major impact on the neighborhood. The landmark building will stay as is, being a beautiful old school structure. The neighborhood will have minimal appearance of change. The three home sites residence architecture is going to stay consistent with the existing neighborhood style and design. None of the houses are going to be alike. I personally will be doing the building to assure and guarantee that those three new houses blend with the neighborhood and be a good quality product built the right way and blend well into the neighborhood. Once we are finished with the entire project, our partnership's commitment and goal is that when people pass by this area, what we have accomplished looks like it's been there for years. I hope I've been able to answer some of the thoughts and some of your questions. My personal effort has been to save the school, make this a positive process with a positive impact in this neighborhood for years to come, and most of all, leave something good behind for generations to come, as Dobby's did for jumpstarting downtown Willoughby. Dave Knott.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, do you want to possibly show the prints so that people can see exactly what you're, are you capable of doing that? So that they could see what you're talking about? I don't know if that's, thanks, Tom. If you want to walk through this, Dave, so that people can understand it.
Absolutely. If in this situation, what we're seeing right now, the yellow area is showing where there's 18 parking spaces. That yellow area is going to be the green space that's going to be added, and that parking area is going to be removed. As you can see, sublot 113, 113, 14, and 15, those are 80-foot wide lots. The red lines I put in there show what 60-foot wide lots would look like, which is what you see behind the back part of the property. You see all those 60-foot wide lots there. But across the street on Glen, you see those 80-foot wide lots. We thought it was in the best interest of the community and neighborhoods to keep the 80-foot wide lots, so there was a more consistent look to it. And that green buffer would add a nice softness from the residential down back into the school area. This is just, I'd say another view of it. This is from civil engineer, just confirming it and showing the lot that were there. And then this is as good as the last shot we showed.
Actually, Dave, can you back up just a little bit? It's starting to break up your audio again. Thank you.
Okay. This is pretty similar to what we just looked at. We're showing the yellow area being the green space that's going to be added with some deciduous trees in there. So it's going to be a nice transition at the side of the last property that's there into the parking area. So it's kind of a nice little buffer that's going to be created right there. This is an actual photograph of the site. And I took a stab at it this way so people could also see the green space from an actual photograph of the aerial shot. So you can kind of get a better idea of looking at the lot sizes. And you see across the street again, our lady mentioned the area across the street is better for the neighborhood. It wasn't about how many houses can we put in there. As you can see the school's nestled in here quite beautifully, been here a long time. Tear it down and put one more house again, I think it should never happen. I think this school deserves better than that. It's been a great architectural element for this community. I think we owe it to people here and make it functional.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
before you get started on this, try to stay back more. I've actually just got a couple text messages from people saying that they're having a hard time hearing you. So we're trying to figure out why your mic is not easy. It might just be because of being on top of it.
You know, this is the first floor plan of the entire school. And if you look at the top of the auditorium, there'll be 4 lock units. They'll have those particular units are going to have 2 floors to them. It's the only floor in the entire project that are going to have a first and second floor. I think they're going to be quite amazing. They're very open, and the windows on that side are going to be quite large. That one there. As you can see, we utilized the classroom pretty much as a way to pretty much separate each unit to give its own flavor as an apartment complex. So we haven't really changed really much at all of any of the existing walls of the building, the main structural walls and partition walls. We're utilizing what's there at this point. What's kind of nice about this building also, you come into the main entrance, the hallway is 11-foot wide, and then the side hallway is 8-foot. Most apartments don't have that luxury. Sometimes they're only 6-foot wide. So it's going to be kind of nice when people come in here to have hallways wider than usual, give them a little more privacy. But I think we've done a great job of integrating the space with all of these living spaces that I think people are going to enjoy. Having a life in this location. This is pretty much the only thing that we're adding to the outside of this building are going to be a couple canvas canopies, as we're seeing, and it's going to say grounding place on it. There's nothing else that we're going to add to these buildings. So it's going to remain pretty much the way it looks right now. We are going to have more landscaping added to the building. We're bringing in, we're talking to arborists about the trees around the property, around the school, and along the back fence line. We've been addressing a lot of those things as time goes on.
All righty. Hey, Dave, I got some questions for you. You were breaking up pretty good. I was getting email or text messages saying that it was breaking up pretty good. Couple questions that I wanted to ask you before. I'm actually going to go to Daryl Keller. But some of the questions, and I'm just being a moderator here. These are the questions that people submitted to me over the past 3 days. Actually, even a couple days before that. A couple of them are simple that I can answer right now myself. Are we going to allow overnight parking on city streets? That is a no. But that's 60 parking lot. That's a lot bigger than a lot of people were expecting. So I think you answered that question already. There was a question going around social media that was asking if you're going to have a 12-foot fence around the building or the perimeter, and the answer there is no, because we wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, we've never had.
I did want to get those two out, but I did bring up a question though that somebody had asked. What happens with the current fence? Are you taking that fence down?
No, leaving it as is. I think we'll take a look at it more and assess it, but we're not building any fences around the school. I think the 3 building lots that the people will have there we'll handle those normally as a normal residential project. We're going to assess the chain link fences on the back. And we do have some tree work that we're going to do there. I think that's needed. And even around the school itself. So we're going to pay some more attention to that. But again, we're not building any fence around the school at all. It was never part of our scope. We've never talked about it. So I don't know where that came from.
Okay, and we find out all the time that social media can add things to discussions, and some people believe it, and then it turns into an actual question. So I wanted to get some of these out there. One of the other questions that I received was if you believe that our 60 neighborhood is acceptable to have apartments in. There, a couple of questions were, if it was moving across the street from yourself, would you be okay with it?
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I live right around the corner. And yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to throw out these questions that people
Okay.
sent to me because I'm
Right.
just being the moderator on this.
I understand.
Another question was, what is the average size of a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom? You might have said it in your spiel, but I didn't hear it. I was trying to
I
write
think
down.
the average size of a 1-bedroom is about 700 square feet.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
And do you know what the 2-bedrooms? There's only 5 of those.
They're larger, especially the loft units. I mean, the loft units are, I don't have the exact square footage in front of me, but they're probably another 400 or 500 square feet more at
Okay.
least.
Let's see. I got the next question. One of the neighbors actually brought up a question about the power. He says the power comes down Center Street and goes right. That's basically what powers up Browning. And that same pole powers up his house. And he's worried that you're going to have to add more power, or you're going to have to cut his power off for a little bit while you're working on the building. Is there any truth to that from a construction standpoint? Some of these
No,
are.
none. We have a great engineering group of people involved with this. There's not going to be any impact to any of the neighbors in this area at all. Again, the use of this school, when you look at, 400 kids filled there every day with teachers and everybody else, and the use of this is we're taming it down. That's why we're reducing the amount of car parking that's needed there. It's going to go to a much quieter flavor there. So it's not going to have any impact on any of the neighbors there.
Okay, from there, I'm going to go parking, lighting in the parking lot. Some neighbors have asked if you have lighting in the parking lot, is it going to be obtrusive to the people across the street from the parking lot? Are they going to?
I think it's a valid point. I don't think we're going to do anything more than what we have now. I mean, we've always used it this way. We've had 75 people parking there for the last 100 years. I think our intentions are to keep it still soft, quiet. We're not going to light it up. And I think, we don't want to see light pollution there. We understand that.
Okay, now moving on down the list, this is one that I've gotten a lot. And this is why apartment and not condos? The big question on everybody's mind is why rental instead of ownership? And that's, I'll be honest, Dave, that's pretty much the biggest question.
Yeah. With the study and the information that came back to us, the apartment was a better way to go, especially since we can maintaining the building and controlling it, to make sure it's handled properly through the whole process, and it's not complicated. I think probably condos might have a little more space than apartments also. And I think this is more, when you look at the space and the size, it's more apartment oriented than it would be condo oriented from the space designs and the area. So it's from our evaluation after we did everything, this was the better use for it than it would be for a condo project.
Okay. Moving on down my list, we have been told that there's asbestos. Some of the residents around it are wondering how it will be handled so that they don't have to worry about it causing any harm. Some of these questions are not just for the developer, but kind of people don't understand what goes on with construction. So
what was your question again, Dan?
About asbestos. There's some people that are concerned about asbestos being in the building and then getting out while you're working on it.
The only asbestos in this building is in the basement, and we're having that all handled by a professional organization, and it'll be removed the proper way, the professional way, And that's pretty much the scope of what the test results that came back and the city themselves know about it as the school system did. So, you know, we're going to follow the guidelines to the T on that part of it. So there's not going to be anything like that they've got to worry about.
Okay, moving on down my list, and you might have touched on this, but I might not have gotten it. Are there any trees being cut down?
We have a few that we're looking at that they need some real attention there. And even the grass, if you look at the amount of trees there, the grass hasn't done well around the school. We're going to do a really good evaluation of trees, the site, landscaping. You know, we need to spend more time there and appreciate and understand it better. So we're going to talk to a lot of professional people about the plant material. I even provided Tom a copy of a document about a project I did in Willoughby with a guy named Randy Zondag from Natural Resources. And we went in there and we did the same thing. We really did a thorough study of the property. We're going to do the same thing here, you know, of the entire property and assess the trees.
Okay, thank you. Moving on down, where will the garbage be located? I hear 26 apartments in the middle of July could get pretty stinky if it's off to the side or next to one of the neighbors. So that came up twice.
We're working on that right now. We have a couple options, and the pickups are going to be they're going to be more regular. And we're still looking at the best locations for that. But I assure you that we're not going to see that kind of situation happen here. We're going to make and do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's right on the top of our list of things that we're assessing right now. We're looking at, and so we're not going to shortcome on that whatsoever.
Sounds good. Another big question: how will this affect my property values? I'm not sure if that is a question that you can even answer.
I don't think.
Wonder if you've ever dealt with this in the past, because that is a big question. Probably the second biggest question is it going to affect the property values?
I don't see how. I think that first of all, we're building an upscale project, and we're saving an historical building that's a landmark. I think if anything, I believe it's going to be 100% a win-win and a positive for the community and these neighbors in the area, because nothing's going to really change with it. And I strongly believe, and from the information we gathered, there's a lot of people want to live in a neighborhood like this in an apartment, and they're getting the luxury of having a neighborhood like this to live in while still living in an apartment. So I believe it's a win-win for everybody. I don't see there being any detriment at all that would hurt anybody's value in Willoughby. We all know, look, when a house goes up for sale in this community, it doesn't last long. I've lived here for 35 years. I've seen this neighborhood change from young to old many times, and I understand it, and I respect it, and I appreciate this neighborhood as much as anybody.
All right, let's keep moving. If there is any area not conducive to living space, for example, the small room above the main entrance, would you be willing to rent out to a small boutique type business like a frame shop, for example? That came in this morning and kind of brought up a good point. Are you looking at any unusable area that you can offset with a possible boutique type business?
We haven't at this point, but we've utilized all the space. You know, in today's lifestyle with Amazon and packages coming in and things like that, we've designed a few spaces to make that very user friendly for the people that live in there also. And but it's certainly something we can discuss it more as a partnership. But I think right now we've got it pretty much the capacity.
Okay. I got two more questions for you out of the ones that I've compiled of multiple questions from each people. One is, who are the targeted residents? Are you looking at young professionals or retirement age, or are you just looking at whoever wants to move in?
Well, I think I believe that we could have a little bit of both. I mean, obviously, I don't think we're going to see a lot of families in there, but I believe that I think we're going to see a lot of empty nesters in there. And I believe that there's probably some young professional people that would enjoy it also because they like the bike ride. I mean, when you look at downtown Willoughby on a Saturday, people going to the coffee, you'll see people in the summertime riding their bikes through there, people running. I think you could have both elements being very interested to move into a product like this, and I think that they'll appreciate it and respect it.
All right, thanks, Dave. The last one is, do you have a contingency plan if it does not pass through planning commission?
We haven't at this point. We've been focused on, what we have right now on the table, and we keep moving forward, and if something changes, then we'll address it at that point. That we've got to take another look at something if that happens.
All right, thank you, Dave. If you want to hold on, I'm actually going to move on to Daryl Keller now, and keep this moving. Daryl, if you want to unmute. Daryl Keller is our chief building official, and I've asked him to come to this meeting tonight to explain the process that Dave will need to go through to make this a reality. So Daryl, if you could go ahead and just hit some bullet points on the process that he has to go through, that'd be great.
Certainly. Thank you, Councilman, and welcome to everybody who joined us here this evening. The first thing I'd like to mention is that this was originally on an agenda for March 11th. It was advertised as such, and then letters went out for that. It will not be on that agenda. It's been re-advertised, and new letters have gone out. It will be on the agenda for March 25th for the Planning Commission. So there will be a Planning Commission meeting on March 11th. You're welcome to watch it. There'll be other things there, but it won't be about this particular issue. This submittal really has three components to it. It has an environmental assessment statement. It has the development plan, and it has the conditional use permit application. There will be a public hearing for the conditional use permit. That'll be held on March 25th. At that time, they'll also discuss the development plan and the EAS, environmental assessment statement. At that meeting, any of those things can be approved, or they could be denied, or they could be tabled. That'll all be up to the members of the Planning Commission. Eventually, it will, if it is approved, end up at council. Council will be asked to review the environmental assessment statement after it's been forwarded to them by Planning Commission. So that's pretty much it. If you have not received an updated letter advertising the March 25th date, you will be receiving it. They have been sent out. And again, those only go to the people within 300 feet of the school. So if you're further away than that, you won't get one of those letters. But be aware, it is on the agenda for March 25th.
All right, thanks, Daryl. Quick question for you. Anybody can show up to the March 25th meeting, just not the people within the 300 feet?
Absolutely.
Okay, so everybody, hope you all heard that, all 196 attendees. This is not the forum to tell us if you are for or against it. This is the forum to get as much information out as possible. So March 25th, if you are against it, that's where you would go and voice your opinion. And that's going to be a Zoom meeting too, correct?
That is correct.
And that one, you don't have to register like this one, I believe. I believe that one you just can sign on to it. Is that correct, Mayor Fiala?
I think it's going to function much like this, Councilman, in that there'll be panelists and people can raise their hand and speak in the public section.
Okay. Wasn't sure like how we're handling that one. So Mayor, I'm going to keep you on if I can, because there's been a couple questions that came up from the city side before I actually get into asking questions. Like I said, the overnight parking, a lot of rumors about that. I know I'm totally against overnight parking in residential areas. I just want to make sure that you're on board with me.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilman. Two things: no overnight parking on the streets. In fact, I would suggest a developer post that, and then we would enforce it. But more importantly, we've heard some rumors of people saying that there'll be parking all the way, like on the street, all the way to downtown Willoughby, which is absolutely unfounded. There's no truth to that, nor has it ever been brought up.
Good. I kept telling people I didn't bring it up, and I've never heard it, and I just want to get as much truth out there as we can tonight.
Right.
What I think is the next thing to do is to go to some of the attendees, and we will go ahead and have them ask some questions. Like I said before the meeting, or as the meeting was starting, if you ask a question, let's try not to have repeat questions. We're trying not to stay here till midnight tonight. So I'm going to go over, and it might take me a while because saying we have 195 people and we got 6 people raising their hands. So I'm going to unmute Joe Palmer. Joe, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, Dan, thank you very much. And I really appreciate you putting this meeting together. It's been a very hot topic in our neighborhood here. Really thankful that a local resident is trying to tackle this subject. It is, one of the priorities for Ward 5 right now. Just a couple of questions for Dave, and then I'll mute myself back. Dave, you mentioned going with an upscale apartment complex with a $1,400 to $1,800 per month target price range. What marketing study that have you done that showed that's going to be successful for that square footage?
Well, our one partner, which we brought in for the specific reason, his name is Brad Coet. He's the president of Coet Real Estate. He's got years of experience in this area, owns a number of apartments, and we put that in his hands. And this was the information that after he went back and he did the research and put this together, we're very confident in what he put together because of his past success and in his activity that he has in this industry. And we definitely wanted somebody in here that has great success in this industry to be able to take the reins to make sure we're a fine-tuned machine.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Has your marketing expert, does he have any properties in the immediate area?
Brad's got them all over the city of Cleveland. I mean, I can't give you a list of all of them, but it's quite a lot. They have a lot of projects on the board at this time. They've even got, from what I understand, on Cedar, they've got a $28 million, I think 150 unit apartment project going there. He really likes this location because of the one thing that's special that we have here. It's the neighborhood. These people are they're interested in living in a neighborhood. We have to look, there's a nice value for that, and it's safe. And people want that. We have something that it's hard. There's not a lot of it. If you look at the Maroons project, which was very successful across some Andrews, that went quite well. I had one of my sons living in there for a while, who's a police officer. They just bought a house in Willoughby, and he had a 2-bedroom over there. And he has seen the school. He went there and he said, "I wish this would have been available when we were looking for an apartment. We would love to have lived over here." And I think that's one of the added benefits of this location, is that it's a neighborhood instead of living on a main street.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very desirable neighborhood. Last question then. So, given the number of projects the city has on tap, and the comment that I get from most people who have lived in this area the longest is Pine Ridge apartment complex started as an upscale community. Today it accepts Section 8. What prevents this project from 10 to 15 years down the road, becoming the next Pine Ridge?
Well, first of all, Joe, I think we have to appreciate, we're investing a lot of money into this project. This isn't a little bit, this is a lot for a 26 unit apartment complex. Higher quality, we're putting everything in here is a high quality product. We're more interested in a market of people that want this kind of product. There's enough of the other type of product out there for people to live in. This particular project, and that's why I got involved. Look, I live here. I live the block right around the corner from this. this is a lot of work. This is a lot that we have to do here. I have a lot on my plate in my life at this point. But my commitment to this neighborhood was to assure that this project was going to be handled properly in the right way because of my neighbors in this neighborhood. I wanted to assure that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure it stays that way for a long time. I'm gonna retire on this street, and when I leave, it's going to be in a box. So I can only tell you from myself and my partners, especially the Jafferys themselves. They lived and their kids grew up here, right next to where I live. They understand this neighborhood as well as I do, and they care about it as much as I do. Our commitment it's very sincere about our objective here and the long-term effect that this project has on this community.
Thank you, Dave. That's all the questions I have for now.
All right, thanks, Joe. I'm going to mute you, and I am going to go to Olivia Hinkle. Olivia, if you want to.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So what's on my mind is, well, a couple things, but if you don't get the desired rent that you want, what's the floor? Where do you draw the line and say, okay, well, people aren't renting at this amount. What are you willing to accept?
Olivia, we've had very good interest at this point. We feel very strong about our success there. Brad especially, he's been doing this a long time. It's not his first rodeo. He's been doing this a very, very long time. And the information that they've gathered has been very good. And we feel very strong about the ability of what we're looking at, of what we're going to get in rents there.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. What's the minimum you're willing to accept for rent if you can't get the prices you want?
That'll be our number. We feel very confident in it, Olivia.
Okay, so you don't want to answer that question. What about this one? And I hate to put you on the defensive here, but you've put the neighborhood on the defensive. We used to have Waldefest, and we distinctly remember you sort of protesting that, which was something to strengthen our community, which didn't seem like something you were interested in. So how can I buy now that you're interested in strengthening this community with transient people who have no investment in it?
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I think one time when I needed to get into my driveway, my wife needed to get in, Olivia. I think that we're talking about apples and oranges here. So we don't have a problem with any sort of festivals that happen in this community. As I said, I've been here a long time. I've invested a lot into this community for a long time, and we're going to be here for a long time. So I believe that my commitment to this community is extremely strong, and what our motives here and what our goals are here.
And I'm glad you feel that way. I am, because I hope it's pure intentions. It's just the idea of having that many people added to a community is off-putting, and it feels unsafe. It feels dangerous. And do we have statistics that show the crime rate for communities that have apartments versus those that just have single-family residences?
I don't. I don't think the city has ever done any kind of studies on that. Yeah,
I just think that would be something we're interested in knowing if we're talking about the safety of families that live in this neighborhood, because there's quite a few with a lot of young children. And I don't think that's something that can be overlooked.
I think maybe me and the mayor will get together after this meeting and do some discussion on that. Is that okay, Olivia?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Those are all the questions I have for now.
All right, thank you. I'm going to put you on mute. And then before I unmute anybody else, I want to just remind everybody, we're all here on our own accord. Let's try not to attack people personally. Let's just get the questions answered. When you are against it, we understand you will be against it. And you can do that talking at the May 25th. So I just want to reiterate, just talk that over one more time. But now I'm going to go to Nancy Lagucki. Nancy, did you unmute yourself? Nancy.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
there you go. Now we got you.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering about the traffic. I mean, I live on Glenwood. It's a cut through street, obviously, to Euclid. So what about the extra apartments here? I mean, it's going to be a lot more traffic.
Our
do you say about
engineer's not here today. That would be a question more for him, and it would probably be more of a question for at the planning commission meeting. I will say, I myself, just personally, this isn't like councilman, this is just Dan Anderson talking now. I'm not sure if 50 extra cars would warrant a traffic study, just from other projects that we've seen come through. So I just want to give that a heads up. You're talking about 50 vehicles, and I believe they look at like going in the morning and coming back at night, and some.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's 26 more apartments, so that's all I have to ask. So.
No, I appreciate you asking, and like I said, that will definitely be something to bring up at the planning commission meeting, and hopefully
325, March 25th.
March 25th. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Is that
Thank
all your
you.
questions? No problem. I'm going to put you on mute, and I'm going to go to the next.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Andrea Tavano, you have your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just had a couple of questions. One was, she had just mentioned the increase in traffic. People do not stop on Glenwood or Waldemere for the stop signs now. I watch people repeatedly do 40, 50 miles an hour right through the stop sign all day. And with 26 units over there, that adds a lot to the traffic in the area. But my questions are more about, you mentioned studies. Is there a need for another apartment complex in Willoughby? Have studies been done to see if it has lowered the value of the home values in the area when an apartment complex is put in the residential area?
That will be another study that we will look into. I don't know if we will definitely go forward with one of those. I will tell you that we just got done having a study done saying on what our downtown can handle with apartments. And that, I believe, Mayor, if you can help me out with that, that came out about 3 months ago.
Yeah, we had that market study done about 3 months ago, and it suggested that we could absorption of about 100 apartments per year over the next 10 years. Or, well, not just apartments, residential units, and that includes single family and apartments as well, rentals and single family.
Okay, now I know Dave mentioned it was an upscale apartment complex, and I don't know who it was previously who had mentioned, how do you keep it from being a Section 8? You cannot guarantee that. So what really are your plans if those go at $1,400 a month for a one-bedroom apartment not to be rented? What will you do then?
We feel very strongly that we'll get the amount we're talking about. If you look at what the Marusas are getting even across the street over there, for what they have there, we have a more desirable location even than that, and they're
about $1,200 a month for a two-bedroom apartment. Is about.
They're even more than that. I have a son, like you said, he's a police officer that lived in there, and but again, they're getting a little more value here because they want to live in the neighborhood. We're talking about 25 or 26 people here, 26 residences here.
So if you don't get what you want, will they sit vacant?
Andrea, we feel very strongly that the number that we're putting out there, Andrea, is very doable and the responses of people we've talked with, and Brad himself. He feels very, very strong about it. We feel very confident about it.
So my question is, if you are not renting them at $1,400 a month, will they sit vacant, or will you lower the price then?
No, we're going to keep, I believe this place is going to be full very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. We will go on to Kathy Advey.
Hi, everyone. I have a few questions, and it circles back to the Section 8. Again, the previous caller covered most of it, but there is nothing in place that could prevent that from going Section 8, and that would be my main concern. Why not condos? I mean, you wouldn't have the transient population coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and you would still make money. So I understand capitalism, you have to make a buck, but why on the backs of our neighborhood? That is very disturbing to me. And Dave, you're not answering questions, and that's kind of disturbing as well. This isn't about feelings. This is about our neighborhood, which is, I guess it is feelings on our end, but you can't answer it, I believe, and I think that's not what we want to hear. I think we need to hear some more concrete information and numbers before anything gets approved. And that's all I have to say.
All righty. Thank you, Kathy. Do you want to answer that, or you already have answered about the not condos instead of apartments, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, I have already answered that question.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and mute Kathy, and I'm going to go to Rose Lewicki. Are you there, Rose?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just have a couple quick questions. And I'm over on South Street, so I'm around the corner, but I walk in that area all the time. And so you might have said this, but I couldn't hear it. You talked about the 3 homes that were going to be built there in those lots, but what was the price range of those homes, and what's the square footage approximately?
Well, Rose, our goal is not about the square footage. Our goal there, two things that are going to be consistent. One is that homes that are going to go in there are going to complement the neighborhood architecturally. Secondly, we're going to build them the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And so our goal there is that, it's going to be a good quality product. My guesstimate is that the houses will probably be in that 450 range.
Okay.
Again, if somebody wants to put a small ranch on something like that, we don't have a problem with that. But we want to make sure one thing happens. It's going to be a good quality product. Obviously, there's other types of housing that people can buy a house in the area, whether it's a Ryan House or some of the others. I want to make sure that this product is going to be a little above that because of this neighborhood, and so we're going to make sure that does happen. We have interested people, and that's one of the criteria is they have to agree that we've got to go in this direction, and they're okay with that.
So are you saying that, I guess I'm not clear. So is the builder going to build these on spec, or are the buyers going to buy the property and build their own houses?
No, I'm going to build, here's what we're doing to make sure we control it. I'm going to build all 3 houses that are going to be there.
Got it. Okay.
None of those houses are going to be alike. We're going to make sure that happens.
Uh-huh.
And we have a very strong interest there, and the idea is that we'll customize each client's house and build it. We're going to build it to assure that we meet these criteria on what we want to see happen, so that when we're done, as I said before, with the school, once it's renovated, and those 3 houses, that when people come down the road one day, it would look like nothing's ever happened. It would look like it's always been there. That's our main goal.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Rose. We will go on to Jeff Mackey now. Jeff, are you there?
Thanks, Dan.
Got it, Jeff.
Good to see you.
Same here.
Dave, I really appreciate your approach to retaining the building in the neighborhood. When that first went up for sale, I had a vision that scared the bejeebers out of me that somebody was going to buy it, tear the building down, and build 12, 15 houses or something. So I'm enamored with the idea of keeping the building. Could you talk a little bit about, these are upscale apartments. I heard you mention granite countertops. Can you talk about appliances, laundry facilities, things like that that are also going to make them special?
Every unit is going to have its own washer and dryer. All the appliances will be new that are going in there. So it's not like some of the older apartments where you have to walk down the hall and it's there's a washer and dryer used by everybody on that floor. Everybody has their own washer and dryer in each one of these units.
Good. All right. I think that helps to bring it up to a higher level of standard. Thank you. Appreciate your effort here.
Thanks, Jeff. We're going to go to Dolores Black now. Dolores, can you unmute? There
Hi,
you go.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, everyone. So many of the questions I had have been answered, but I know someone asked him why not condos, because originally this is what we thought was going to be there. So my first question is, he answered it, but I couldn't hear. It wasn't very clear. What's wrong with condos? Because I think we need those more than we need apartments. We have a lot of apartment buildings around, and they do make the neighborhood prices go down. I think you can just look around and see that. So can you tell me why you changed from condos to apartments?
All right, and then after this one, this will be the last time you have to answer this question, Dave.
Okay.
But yeah, if you can, just because a couple people have asked
I
it.
mean,
since.
I don't need a long, elaborate answer. I just didn't hear what you said before.
Well, first of all, Mrs. Black, we never ever talked about condos there. I don't know who started that, but it was never part of our agenda. And we've been apartments from day one till this point. The thing is with our information we've gathered, they're probably not big enough as far as selling them as a condo. They're more apartment size. And from the information gathered, we're better off to stay where we're at with it, because that's the sort of product we have there with in this school. It's more of an apartment flavor to it.
And then my second question is, when the zoning was changed, I believe that was last year, we never knew that it was changed from residential to commercial so that you can put apartments there. Were the residents made aware of that zoning change?
That's more of a question for Bob, I think.
Yeah, Mrs. Black, that part of the code was actually changed, and Daryl confirmed it with me maybe 5-6 years ago. And it was just, the intent was just to try to salvage buildings of importance within the community. Wasn't built around Browning necessarily. It's about any building of importance. I think the Tech Center and Building B, Memorial, were probably the reason it was crafted. The zoning code update last year, I think there were some language changes in that, and we had several public hearings, more than several public hearings about that. But the code that actually permitted buildings to be renovated in residential districts has been around for maybe 5-6 years. Daryl, can you confirm that for me, or?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. About 5 or 6 years. And it is important to note the zoning itself did not change, and this is not an application for rezoning. It is just simply a conditional use where it is a change of the use that's being permitted or not. But it's not really a rezoning, and it's not something that's going to come up very often, I wouldn't think.
Okay, so my last question then is there an opportunity to cancel this project and have something else, or do the residents have a voice in this, or is it already a set deal?
No, I'm actually going to jump in on this one, if you guys don't mind. I'm actually going to be walking around the neighborhood in the next couple of weeks before the 25th. You do have the option to go to the March 25th meeting to voice your opinion, which is another Zoom meeting. I'm going to try to get and be as on the fence as possible for this. I want to go around and I want to ask as many people as I can, are you for it or against it? And whatever I find, I will show up at the
25th.
I will show up at the zoning or at the planning commission meeting, and I will tell them what I've heard over the last 3 weeks.
Because I live right across the street from that building, so it really is important to me.
No, and I hear you, and I'll be by your house and make sure I write all your information down so that I can have as much as I can.
Okay, thank you.
Dan, if I may, Mrs. Black, as I see it, there are 2 hurdles to overcome for this project to be approved. The first is Planning Commission needs to determine if this building is significant and should be saved, and there's framework around that. And then the second is, if it should be saved, is this the appropriate use of the building?
Yeah.
And if you kind of whittle it all your way through into the 2 significant things that Planning Commission is going to be looking at, I would suggest those are the.
Well, I'm very much in favor of saving old buildings, but I don't think Browning is that historical.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that building is that historical that we have to save it. I mean, I'm in favor of, those downtown buildings being saved, and I would prefer that, but I don't necessarily think Browning is one of them. But right. Okay, thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you. All right, I just muted you, and I'm going to go on to Timothy Bowens. Are you there, Tim?
This is actually his wife, Julie.
Okay.
We live 2 houses from the end of the driveway that goes out and down Center Street, the back driveway.
Yes.
Is that driveway going to continue to be there? Because people race through there now all the time. So having more people available to race through doesn't make us happy.
I hear you. Dave, you were, if I remember
I'll be
correctly,
honest with you, I've been there now for quite a while. I haven't seen any of that ever going on over there. I'm there daily whether it's first thing in the morning till night. So I don't know, when you say race, I haven't seen that.
well, Dave, are you going to be keeping that, is the plan to keep that there, the driveway?
In the back there?
Yes.
Well, I think we have to from fire reasons for the fire trucks, and then I was told that has to remain open because
Okay.
of the fire code. Yeah, I mean,
No, that's,
a fire truck in there.
I just want to get these questions answered so we can move on.
Well, it has never been wide enough for 2 cars to fit through there. So if it's going to be a 2-way, that's concerning.
No, there's no 2-way, it's just an access.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to mute you now. And let's go down to Sean Mayernick. Sean, are you there?
Hi, thanks for taking my questions. Actually, a couple comments and a question. First of all, Dave, for a guy who says he's been in the neighborhood for 35 years or whatever, I really think you missed the boat on what makes this neighborhood special and unique. And it's not apartments, it's about houses and families that have lived here. That's what's unique about this neighborhood here. My other comment is, I'm sure long ago when Pine Ridge Apartments were built, they invested a great deal of money too. And eventually, when things don't work out and you have to make a decision, you are probably going to make a decision to hang on to as much as you can. And that opens the possibility for Section 8. And, several people have asked you point blank what your bottom line is going to be, and you refuse to answer the question. And I, along with them, find that very troubling. And I have a question, actually, not for you, but for the mayor. Mayor, how would you feel about having apartment buildings in St. John's Bluff?
Well, we might get a housing development in my backyard. So I don't have a position on this. And I'll tell you what my position is that, again, I think we first have to determine if the building is worth saving. And there's architectural discussions about that and cultural. Then the next discussion is if it should be saved, is apartments the right use? And that's the purview of our planning commission to discuss. So I don't know. I don't know what else do you have. Did I answer your question or did I avoid it?
Well, you said that, you're getting a housing project. Okay, well, a housing project is different than an apartment building.
Right.
So there's a clear difference there.
Yeah, if you ask me if I support this project or not, that's really, I don't want to leverage the mayor's office to affect the planning commission meeting. They're supposed to exist as a independent board. And at that meeting, if I'm asked my position, I will state it. But these boards and commissions are supposed to act as independent boards and commissions and not be influenced by the administration.
Okay, well, thanks for your comment. Mr. Anderson, I would appreciate you knocking on my door. I live on Glenwood, the upper end. In all my years here, I've never had a council person visit my house or send me an email or a newsletter or anything. So the more communication as possible, that would be great.
Sounds good. Do you know if you put your address down when you signed up? Because I have 190 names that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll definitely, if you put your address in, I'll have it. I got the printout of it today, so
Okay.
I will definitely try to
Thank you.
get over to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to put you on mute, and I'm going to go to Bruce Sundman. Bruce, can you?
Hey, there we go. We're unmuted. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, my wife and I, Bobby, are here. We actually live over across from the pet hospital in another area of Willoughby, actually close to the mayor. But we've had concerns for a while about what happened at Riverwalk, what happened in downtown Willoughby, what happened our building codes, what happened with the density of population, that kind of thing. We were shocked when Riverwalk when we were shocked when Riverwalk actually got developed and 3-story apartment buildings were allowed to be built in Willoughby. It didn't even have elevators. We were shocked when, down next to the library, they built the townhomes and townhouses, or whatever you want to call them, that had retail on the bottom. And now we have more that are on Vine Street that have never been completed, and the work has been so slow. We're concerned that Maroos brothers, who developed Riverwalk, and some other people, and we appreciate that everybody's in this for, as development and buying a piece of property. They want to maximize the use of that property as well. They should for being an investment. Our question, so we just found out, the other day that there's another 161 apartments going in on Vine Street. Well, they were approved anyway, is my understanding, by the city. We have no idea, again, if they're going to have elevators or what they're going to look like or what they're going to be. But so my concern is why in a neighborhood, being a resident of Willoughby, why in a neighborhood like this building exists, why wouldn't the building not look like a school? Why would it not be improved to look like something a little bit different? Why would we not have 1-bedroom apartments that basically open the neighborhood for people who are going to be transient residents for the period of time that you only need 1 bedroom? Why wouldn't we remodel the building and make it 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, or some other kind of place that people might want to move with family or participate in the neighborhood for an extended period of time? Unlike Riverwalk, where happily many people live, but they don't stay. And if we had those statistics from Maroos, who originally was going to build their corporate headquarters there, they were going to move it there, and they pulled out of that agreement. Instead, they moved and they went down to the Crywin property and developed it a very nice way. Thank goodness. I'd like to know what makes us think that developing all these 1-bedroom apartments and not improving the building and make it look a little bit different or better in the neighborhood is a good decision for Willoughby.
I'm going to jump in right there. I don't believe the way that the conditional use works, and Daryl, you can correct me if I'm wrong. If there's any way of changing it so it does not look like the existing building, it is not able to be done. That's part of the reason why the zoning or the code is like that. It's to save the existing building. Outside of that, it's just an R60. Unless I'm wrong, Daryl, I thought that was the intent of the conditional use.
In this particular case, because it's outside the historical district, they wouldn't specifically have to adhere to all those criteria. So
Okay.
If they wanted to make some changes, they would have to certainly present those to Planning Commission. And then it would be up to Planning Commission if they wanted to permit those.
So the conditional use permit is only available to one property at one time for forever, or a certain period of time?
No, it's just for that property.
Forever.
It's any property can have a conditional use.
Okay, so
there's conditional uses for everything.
Okay, which is fine, but I think we've confused the issue here. If the conditional use permit that's being offered to this property to have, these 20+ apartments in there that most are 1-bedroom, talking about is for the interests of the city, is that really the best functional use of this property in the residential neighborhood to improve the values of the property?
And Bruce, that is the exact question that we'll need you to ask on the 25th. That's the question for the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. While we're here though, I'd like to, I appreciate the fact that Mr. Knott and his partners are in this, they didn't purchase the property for an enormous amount of money, per square foot from what other properties of equivalent value were going on. But the bottom line is they did make an investment. They're willing to make a bigger investment to improve the property. So my question is, what would be the impact, Mr. Knott, if you took that building and did develop it in different ways, that you brought in families that wanted to reside in the neighborhood for a longer period of time than people that might have a 1-bedroom apartment?
Bruce, I'm not sure I understand your question is. I'm not sure I totally understand it, but because of the we're using the rooms as a criteria there. You can't fit 2 bedrooms and add them because you want 2 bedrooms. It's not, there's not enough space to do that. So we're working within the footprint of the building to create that. I mean,
So you're also, so one of the criteria would also be the budget that you have to remodel the building.
yes. What about it?
Obviously.
I'm not sure. What's your question, Bruce? This one,
I'm just like, what would it be to remodel that building into something that would have, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments in places that families might want to live instead of individuals? We're looking for families and people that might want to move into a place they could stay for longer than a year or two than a bunch of 1 bedroom apartments. That I think, well, you can disagree with me, but I believe that 1 bedroom apartments probably bring more transient people in than people are going to stay for, more than, 2 or 3 years. That's just my thought. You can tell me what you think about that. That's fine. But what would it be to develop the property into a place that has more bedrooms?
You couldn't do that. You'd have to do major construction on that building for that to happen. It's not feasible.
Okay, but again, that for what the rent is, we're not in downtown Cleveland or otherwise. Comparable rent, aside from what's going on over at Riverwalk, I mean, in the county, what is the comparable rent for a 1 and 2 bedroom apartment?
Again, I will say this: my partner Brad Coates, the gentleman that's more set up to be able to answer those kind of questions than myself. So we look to Brad for his recommendations and his direction on that.
Okay, well, Brad Kovitz is a member of multiple LLCs that are involved in multiple buildings that have been remodeled and otherwise that are profitable or non-profitable. So the question is, in our community, relative to our community and comparable product, what do you think? I mean, we tried to compare Pine Ridge earlier, which was built in this, and it's also in Willoughby Hills, part of it, built multiple properties, whether they're high rise or low rise, or just multi-family dwellings with 2 or 3 apartments within them, was built over a 30-year period. When they originally went in there, Willoughby Hills and Willoughby gave them, Willoughby gave them access, and Willoughby Hills gave them permission because it was property next to the freeway that they believed could not be developed, the permission to build high rises. So all we are here is we're in a community that's always had single family homes with a school in the neighborhood. So my question again is, as a developer, which you are, what is your thought, or what would be your opinion if you could develop that property for something that would be attract families again that would want to stay in the community longer than 1 bedroom apartments? Do you think that's something that you and your partners would be able to figure out to do with that building?
I don't think that's feasible with this particular building. I think we're looking at what I would call this more of a boutique apartment project. This isn't very large. It's not a 3-story. It's not like where you have like Riverwalk, where you have 8-10 buildings over there. This is a little niche building where I wouldn't call it more of a boutique type.
Okay, the question was, though, are your partners willing to take a look at your boutique building and redesign it to have more apartments than single family apartments? I mean, Riverwalk was built from scratch. It was a piece of property that was bulldozed.
Hey, Bruce.
This is the best we can do with the space. There's not any other options with it.
Hey, Bruce.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, Dan. Dan,
no
Dave,
problem.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. You guys have a great night.
Yeah, we're going to keep moving on. Larry Luciano, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. A couple questions off of that, and this might be a planning commission question, but would the Christ the Scientist Church possibly qualify as a similar property that could be repurposed into apartments and or condominiums at the apex of our streets?
That would be a good question for Daryl. The church that's right at where Brown and Waldemar meet.
Yeah, the beautiful building that sits right there, and that could also be repurposed if I'm understanding correctly.
I would say that is something that could be considered for that property too. Again, completely up to the planning commission.
Right. And then the property that's on the corner of Brown and Euclid Avenue, that's owned by the church, that too could be repurposed and turned into an apartment complex.
Again, depending upon what the planning commission determines its historical value and significance.
Right.
I should mention though, since some of these buildings are in residential districts, there are other permitted uses for buildings in residential districts that don't require a specific particular conditional use such as this. Obviously schools, churches, those types of things. So I'm just throwing it out there that there are some other uses that are possible for some of these buildings.
Sure. And I appreciate that. I'm just trying to see, 5-10 years down the road where some other buildings that we consider to be part of our neighborhood also turn into an apartment complex. And then I guess my other question is for Mr. Knott. Mr. Knott, you mentioned the desirability of our neighborhood and how much you love it. And my question to you is, how is adding an apartment complex enhancing or adding to the integrity of the neighborhood that is residential, and under its footprint, whoever originally zoned it as R60 to be a residential community. So how is this adding to the neighborhood that you're touting? And then I'll mute myself.
Well, again, Larry, if we look at the years, it's been used as a school and it's been used as a senior center. It didn't detract from the value of these residences in this neighborhood. Because we're going to have 20 some people live in there. Does that mean that's going to detract from the neighborhood? I don't understand that.
My question is, how is it adding?
Well,
your point is that it's not detracting. My question is, how's it adding?
Well, I think there's probably, you could speak up for both sides. I believe we're putting in a positive product that's going to have a long-term positive impact for this neighborhood and this community.
How compared to the senior center, sir, brought in energy. It brought in folks into our neighborhood, and then they left at the end of the evening. The school, you call them screaming. I'm talking. You call them screaming kids. I call that energy in a neighborhood. I call a school energy in a neighborhood. So my question is how is adding 26 apartments where people come and go, how is that adding to the neighborhood that is arguably the nicest neighborhood in South Willoughby and maybe one of the nicest neighborhoods in all of Lake County? That's my question to you. Not how is it not detracting?
I believe the approach that we're taking and what we're going to do with the building, enhancing it, it's going to stay just like it is. Nothing is changing. We're not doing anything here negatively that's going to have a detriment or a negative impact on this community by any means. We're investing the money into the building to upgrade it, to enhance it. As the 3 building lots are there, it's going to add, it's going to enhance that area. So I believe 100% that what we're going to do there will have a positive impact on the neighborhood, Larry.
And I believe 100% the opposite.
And Larry, that's where you got to show up to the March 25th meeting. I'm going to move on now, and I just want to get this out there because I looked at the time. It's 8:28. When I got the heads up for the meeting, we had it listed as a 90-minute meeting. Just in case something happens, just reach out to us if this meeting actually shuts down. I don't believe it will, but I just want to get that out there just in case. So I will go on to the next person, Mark Manzel.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, I've just got a few questions. One of them, the first one is how will adding all these apartments affect the sewer system in the neighborhood? Second question is where will you be putting the HVAC condensing units and how will you mitigate the noise? Third question is what will you be doing with all the trees that were purchased by the people in the neighborhood in memory of the other past residents and stuff that are lining the tree lawn? And last question is, you keep talking about a conditional use permit. Is that something that can be revoked or changed in the future? Thank you.
Dave, if you want to answer about the trees,
Well, yeah,
Is that-
I guess this will get back to, we'll understand what the tree situation is there. So, I would be glad to get more educated about the items with these trees so we can respect it and understand it. Our goal is to, again, we're bringing in some really good arborists and some recommendations of people. If these trees are that special, we'd like to understand it and why, and we'll be glad to take a look at that. As far as the sewer system, when you had children there, during the day, you had a lot of toilets flushing all day long through the whole day that was there. There's no way that the amount of people we have here are going to even come close to the kind of sewage usage that a school is putting into that every day, from toilets flushing to 26 residents. As far as the HVAC systems in there, Mark, is we're putting in high efficiency split systems. So these are very compact units, and they're going to be up on the roof. So they're really not going to be down on the ground anywhere. And they're very quiet. They're much more energy efficient today. They're the way they work. So it's just new technology with these systems, and it's going in a great direction with these mechanicals.
And Mark, just for me to add on, when we go through the EAS, the engineer will tell us what his findings are on the sewer capacity. So that will be looked by the city engineer during the EAS. Go ahead.
If I may too, and I'm going to ask Daryl to confirm this. I know in most instances, and I would assume here as well, that conditional uses do not transfer with the property. So if the property owner changes, I believe they have to come back for another conditional use permit. Daryl, is that your assessment?
That is correct. They would come before Planning Commission for the transfer. And the terms of a conditional use permit, in addition, have to be maintained. If for any reason they weren't being maintained, there would be a notice sent out. They would have the opportunity to correct that, but that's the reason typically when you see a conditional use permit, the holders of that permit usually play pretty strict to the rules.
All right, well, Mark, I'm going to mute you because we're going to try to get this moving. I'd really like to have this ended by 9, and let's go to Beth Teig. You there, Beth?
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. Who is going to manage the property after completion? Is it yourself, the development team, or are you going to get it full of renters and then sell it off and let somebody else manage it who is not part of this neighborhood?
No,
and then what kinds of
our
safeguards?
organization, which is going to be Brad Keller, they're going to be handling the management.
Okay, and then what safeguards are going to be put in terms of background checks on renters at the building?
I believe Brad Cohen, again, has that all. I mean, again, he's done this for many years, very successful. We feel very confident in the process that he goes through, Beth, to make sure we've got qualified people there.
Is there a reason Brad couldn't show up tonight to help address a lot of these questions that the residents have?
He's out of town. He's on vacation right now.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Beth. I'm going to mute you. Lynn Kilgore. You able to unmute yourself, Lynn? Right there? Lynn, you there? All right, we're going to mute Lynn and put your hand back up and we'll try to unmute you again. Jacqueline Bambrick.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I have a question. We're an extremely young family in this neighborhood. Me and my husband are in our 30s, and we plan on staying here for a decent amount of time. And I know, Mr. Knott, you're an older gentleman. So what happens when you and your partner, who you said have also lived in this area for a while, aren't around anymore to manage the building? What's the safeguards in any way that it doesn't go Section 8 or?
I believe that wholeheartedly that we will have things in place. If I was to leave, whenever that would be, I'm 100% confident that the program will stay intact the way it is now, all the way from its, as long as we're, alive. So, and at the same time, I believe that the company that can be handling this is going to maintain the expectation and quality of what we put in place.
So it's not actually you and the partner, it's a company that's going to be managing it. So there's no.
Well, the partner we have is handling, because of his expertise in this area. Our one partner, his company's going to handle the management of the project, because they maintain other apartment buildings, so they're much more seasoned and knowledgeable of this part of the business. So we're very confident that Brad's organization is going to take good care of the building because of the track record they have right now, Jacqueline.
But then that is somebody that is not from this neighborhood. You're coming into this saying that you're from this neighborhood and you want to keep it nice and it, will add to the neighborhood, but now a company that is managing it that is not from here.
They're very local. They're 10 minutes from here. I feel very confident that Brad will put the right people in place to take care of the management part of it. We're very confident of that. So I don't see there any issue on our part at all. It's going to be well taken care of. And being that I live here also, obviously, it's tough when you live in a neighborhood as we are here, and having to deal with all this. This is a tough situation. My own personal time in this is very sincere in what we want to try to do here. So I'm not going to do something that I feel is going to hurt this community or this neighborhood. I live here and I'm going to be here for a long time. I have 5 children. I would venture to say probably one day one of them will probably take over this house that I live in.
All right, is that it, Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to mute you. I'm going to try to move this along because we are getting close to that 9 o'clock hour. We'll go Liz S. Liz, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, this has been my question for the whole night, and I think it's been brought up a few times, but you talked about Brad, your partner Brad, who had years of experience and data.
Actually, Liz, you broke up. You broke up really bad. Did anybody else hear, or did she just break up on my end? No? Yeah, you're gonna have to repeat that or try to sign back on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so you've talked about research that you've done with your partner, Brad, who's had years of experiences, but haven't given any specific data, and it's just not legitimate response. To be an investor in this and not have legitimate responses and real data, I just don't think is sufficing right now to most of us. What specific model or Cleveland suburb are you using where a 1-bedroom apartment building has brought an increase in value in a neighborhood, specifically over a 10-year period of time? Even the Maroos apartments that you're referring to, and I know this was already discussed, are making our community look and feel worse. It's not a good example to use. And then in addition, I hope that you note that your children are grown. You guys have been able to utilize Browning, the center, the playground. There's many young families, I think, that are on this call tonight who aren't able to utilize that now because of this investment. So it's nice that your children are grown and we're able to go to there, but we are not able to have that opportunity anymore. But if you can give a specific model, city, Cleveland neighborhood that you're using this off of, that would be at least one response that would provide specific data.
Okay, and Liz, that is more of a question for the Planning Commission.
I don't think it really is. I mean, there hasn't been really a specific data-driven response provided. I mean, what model is this? What city? What is it? Is there a city in the Cleveland area that you're using this off of, that you're putting a 1-bedroom apartment in the middle of a neighborhood, and it's bringing value, and it's bringing extra safety, and it's bringing comfort, and it's bringing people that, what model, where is this else in Cleveland?
And I don't have an answer for that. And that's why I'm thinking that it's a Planning Commission question, because they could actually have him, if I'm correct, they could actually have him do a study. I might not be right though. I don't know.
Aren't these studies done prior than the information that was already provided in the beginning of this call? I mean, I think that's where the frustration lies amongst a lot of people right now, is that
You have
it
to
might look
remember-
nice, your plan, it might look nice, but I think the data is important, and especially to the neighborhood.
And there are actually some planning commission people on this call. So they're hearing this, Liz. This is to try to get as much information out that we have readily available. So that's why I'm thinking that definitely this is something you should bring up to planning commission.
Okay.
And then find out from there. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you, but when it comes to forcing somebody to do studies, I kind of step back on that.
Okay, that's interesting. It's an interesting response that, okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna move on then. I'll mute you and I will head to Cindy Bernardo. Cindy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this question's for Dave. In the event that the apartment, that Browning cannot be converted into apartments, what's plan B? Would that building be torn down?
Well, Cindy, that question's already been asked, and if something like that happens, we'll address it at the time. But we don't have a plan B at this point.
So is there a possibility that the building could be torn down and more houses be built there?
I'll actually jump in on that one. If it does not get through conditional use, and they can't do anything, then they can definitely knock it down. And I believe it was something like 8 homes could actually go in that property.
Okay.
From the numbers that we looked at.
All right. And that's I just wanted to get that out there for everybody that is listening, that, instead of 3 homes, there might be 8 homes or possibly more. I don't know.
I don't know. I believe when we looked at it for an R60 area going off a 60-foot frontage, it was like 8 homes is all that could go in there.
Okay.
And that's where it makes it a little bit of a financial issue. But they would only be permitted to do 6 or 8 homes. I actually have the papers in front of me, yes. So I'm
Okay.
going to move on though, unless you have another question, because we're going to try to wrap this
Nope,
up.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Benjamin Hinkle. Benjamin, you there? Right. Benjamin, you there?
Hey guys, this is Olivia Hinkle. I'm gonna let
Okay.
Benny use my phone because his connection can't get audio.
Sounds good.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Doing good.
Good. So I have more of a statement with a question at the end, and it's for Mr. Knott. At the beginning, he stated that none of us showed up. We all really pushed around this neighborhood for people outside the neighborhood that lived in Willoughby to get the levy approved, to hopefully save what this neighborhood had. So for him to say that we didn't show up just because we're not financially in the same position as him, it's kind of rude. And I feel like as us, as a neighborhood, we would have, it would have been great if we all could have came together. If I would have won the lottery, I could have put down $1 million, bought it, and kept it as green space. But that didn't happen. So as your neighbors, we can make this a lot easier on you. Say you're a neighborhood guy, you don't even know about the trees that are planted there for people that are deceased or that have moved on, or the fact that you're sitting there and you're shaking your head at people that are asking questions, your hands are moving in aggression. And I feel like, if you really cared about this neighborhood, you might have got together with the people in this neighborhood and said, hey guys, what would you like me to do with this? Not that you have to listen to us, but at least you asked the question, which would have made us feel more comfortable. Why did you not do that? What is your motive? Please answer the question. Don't skate around it. Thank you.
As far as the trees, Benjamin, as far as the trees, I wasn't aware of this tree issue. We'll be glad to look further into it and check more into this so we understand the history about the trees that you're specifically talking about. I'm sitting here writing down notes, so everything that's.
But
going
if
on-
you're from this neighborhood and you walk over there all the time, sir, then you should know, because everybody reads those signs. People put Easter eggs on them. They put Christmas lights. They do all this stuff for the people that they love. And you don't even know the people in your neighborhood. I'm going to mute myself because I don't think I'm being very positive. So I'm going to let you try to answer that, sir, and have a good night.
All right, we're gonna move on. If you would like to answer that, you can. If not, we're gonna move on, Dave.
Let's move on.
Okay. Let's move on to getting all over the place. Nancy Coyne. Nancy, can you unmute yourself? Nancy, are you there?
Are you sure you pushed the right one, Dan?
Yep.
This
Yeah,
is not,
Nancy.
no, this is not Nancy. This is Gia. You
Oh, it
pushed
says
the
Nancy
right-
Coyne on my screen.
Oh,
and the
you know
screen
what?
saying
Because
Nancy
she
Coyne.
showed me, she sent me the link. I apologize. Well, I'll be
Okay.
Nancy today. How's that?
That's good.
I apologize. I didn't get a link. So, you know, I don't really know why preliminary studies weren't done, but one of the things I know that it's been brought up earlier, but the traffic is a huge concern. And I know I have to agree with the lady on Glenwood. I walk my dog all over this neighborhood, every street, Highland, Glenwood, Waldemere. If there is any opportunity to do any kind of traffic studies in this little niche, it would be really, really well received, number one. Number two, is there an opportunity to do any kind of grants for speed bumps? And I know right when at Dave's driveway, that's where they hit the accelerator. And by the time they get to 84, they're doing 60 miles an hour. And I think with 26 more apartments and 3 houses, it's not the parking spaces that's going to generate 26 more cars going up and down the street. It's going to be the 26 people that live there, plus the houses, plus their families, plus their friends. And I think that's a huge concern. So I'm looking to see if there's an opportunity to, one, do that traffic study, and 2, is there a way to get some sort of grants to do speed bumps or something in these several streets over here? And thank you.
No problem. I'm going to answer one of those right off the bat about the speed bumps. It kind of makes it difficult for plowing to have speed bumps on roads. And that's one of the reasons that I can think of right off the top of my head why not to do speed bumps. Because our service guys do actually a wonderful job plowing, and they would have to pick up their plows, slow down, do everything. It would just make it incredibly hard on them to do their job. And then not only that, I don't know if legally you could put a speed bump on a city street. That'd be something to, as for the traffic study, that would be something to ask Planning Commission. Again, going back to, that's something that they need to hear. And there are some listening tonight, so they're hearing you guys talk about this. I am going to move on to Lynn Kilgore and see if we can get her back. Lynn, are you there? Lynn, are you there? All right, well, she must have a bad connection. Let's go down, and we have Sharon. I do not have a last name for you, Sharon.
I'm here.
There
I'm
you go.
Sharon Burris, but I'm going to hand it over to my husband, Jerry.
Okay.
Hi, all. My name is Jerry Zaburis. Nice to talk to you this evening.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. Number one was just previously touched on, is the traffic in the neighborhood. I think with all the apartments and all the people coming and going, as well as their relatives, visitors, yada, 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 and so on and so forth, you're going to increase the traffic tremendously. The area that the apartment is proposed is full of children. Now it's not the safest as far as traffic goes. Wait till the apartments go in. That'll be a real laugher as far as I'm concerned.
No,
Okay.
and that's where with traffic, it really does go back to planning commission has to hear this. They can ask, I believe they can ask for a traffic study to be done. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes.
The planning
that's
commission
where
be
it
able to ask?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah,
Yes.
that would be something that needs to be brought up to planning commission. But like I said, there are some in attendance tonight and there's been plenty of questions about it. So I'm sure that they're hearing it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Because I'm trying to move this along.
Okay,
and get this last couple.
number one, the traffic study to me is a waste of time. We know there's going to be a lot of traffic, okay? Okay, that ends my first question. The second one is this times that we're in now, all the places that I know of, including Willoughby, are eliminating all the green spaces they can, and they're putting up a structure of some kind. Wouldn't it be better if we did the reverse, increase the green space here, maybe make this a park, because the children have no place to go right now where they did before. The park was flooded with kids. And that was my second point. I rest my case.
All righty, I appreciate it. I'm going to move on and I'm going to go to see who else. Larry Perney. Are you there, Larry? Larry, go ahead and unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
You are echoing pretty bad, though.
I got some feedback there.
Okay.
Just a fresh perspective. We are newer to the neighborhood. We've been here about 4.5 years. And just trying to put a different perspective on it, because obviously this is a very emotional issue from what, hearing and talking. But we are, again, we have been wanting to move into this neighborhood for many, many years. And it was so very attractive to us because of the history, the neighborhood, the houses and everything. And what I'm hearing also is a lot of passionate, a lot of discussion here. But I also think that people should take a look at Dave, and he's got the same passionate intent to make this good. We have also lived in the Tremont area, and we saw a lot of changes there too. And what we had heard when we lived in Tremont was, geez, why couldn't we just have what we had before? Well, you have, from what we perceive as dead space over there, you've got a building that can continue to decay. You've got green space that is not being used, although that, some of the kids play by the playground and everything like that. What do you have to do to enhance a neighborhood? Well, you can put up apartments. You can maintain the beauty of that structure. You can put some new homes in, as Dave explained. It's going to blend in with the neighborhood. And quite honestly, had we had the opportunity to have bought in that neighborhood adjacent to that school as what it's going to be right now, we would have loved it, because what we saw in Tremont, it was a renaissance. And this is what I believe Dave is proposing. And again, it's just a different perspective on what I think Dave's trying to do here. And Dave is very passionate, from what I could see and hear and talk to him about doing the right thing. And he's investing into his neighborhood, his family. I think everybody here can benefit from what Dave's trying to do, and give him the chance to do it. And he's going to do it right. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Larry. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, and I'm going to go back down. We got still 8 more hands up, and we're going to try to knock this out in 7 minutes. So try to be as fast as you can.
Hey, Tom or Dave or Dan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm going to have Tom Thielman do a screen share. We'll be able to see each other still, but he's going to put the info at willoughbyohio.com up.
Okay.
If people have questions in the next 2 weeks, we would encourage them to send it to us. We'll, of course, forward you a copy of anything we receive. Then we could also forward it to the appropriate other, people, engineers, building department, to help get answers between now and that meeting. So, Tom, if you share that screen to show that graphic, that'd be helpful.
All right. Sounds great. And then
Thanks, Dan.
Bob and Nancy Martin, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. This is Bob. I have one question for Dave. And that's, what safeguards are in place to ensure that the apartments will not be short-term rentals like Airbnbs?
Like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what now?
What safeguards will your management company put in place or are in place that will ensure that these apartments don't become short-term rentals like Airbnbs?
I'm not sure what Airbnb is.
Short-term rentals, and what it is a lot of the younger kids use it these days, I guess I could say. Willoughby, we're trying to get it. We would prefer not to have any Airbnbs in here. But what it is you can go online, Dave, and you can rent somebody's house for a day, 2 days, 3 days. It's basically subletting for minimal days. Best way.
I'm not aware of a program like that. Look, we're talking about investing a significant amount of money into this building in this area. I don't think that would be a good approach to take at the direction that we're going in. It's not, that's not something that I've even heard of before, nor would we be interested in.
Sure. I would probably encourage you to check out VRBO or Airbnb to see what it is. And you may want to check out some of the cities have had problems. And Mayor and Dan, you both may want to look into what regulations we might want to put in place in the city of Willoughby, so that if apartments like this do go in, we do have some backbone to make sure that it doesn't further decay a neighborhood.
I agree with you. It is, it's definitely worth having a conversation about.
Yes.
And I am going to go on and look for another hand up. I believe this is Samsung. Samsung SM TV T567V. Are you there? All right, well, we're gonna move on then from that. I muted you. I'm going now to Bobby Hollingsworth. Are you there, Bobby? Bobby, are you there? Interesting. All right, then we will mute Bobby. And I will go down to Sue Barber. Sue, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
All right, quick question. What makes a building historic? Because I think that was built in like 1921. And then, and if it is deemed historic, can it be demolished?
That's actually an excellent question. Mayor, would you have a insight into that?
Yeah, I have a little experience in that. So, Sue, I think there's several things that should be considered when you look at this building if it's architecturally significant. So does it have certain detailing, or does it represent some particular epoch in architectural style that or time that is important, or did some historic figure go to school there or something like that? That building, I would argue, doesn't have much architectural presence. It's much like Lincoln School, which we demolished, 20 years ago or so. So there's architectural characters, but that's only one discussion point. So there's the architecture part of it. Is it significant, or have it the details? It's a nice, well-kept school building, but I'm not sure architecturally if it has any beyond that what architectural value it has. Now, I think the bigger question, and this is a question for the neighbors, is does it have cultural significance for that neighborhood? Is it such a part of that fabric of that community that our neighbors want to see it kept in some capacity? I think that's the bigger question than the architectural question.
Okay, so the age doesn't really come into it. I thought like once it hit 100, that doesn't make it historic.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, now we're going back. Let's see. Bobby Hollingsworth. Bobby Hollingsworth, you there? Well, we're going to mute that. We're going to go back to Larry Luciano? Did I just unmute you?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point about the mayor's comments about the neighborhood and whether the building would qualify as having any cultural or community value. I certainly can't speak for everybody in Ward 5, but the community value was lost when we lost the park. And the cultural value was also lost when the seniors stopped coming into our neighborhood, and the elementary school and the Taekwondo lessons and watching the seniors have dances to live music. So it's an old building. I would leave it at that, because if you turn it into apartments, the community and cultural value, it's not there, at least from my perspective. And it all came from what was going on inside the building, and residents won't be adding the cultural or community value that, people coming and going that it had when it was a senior center or an elementary school.
And Larry, Dan, if I may jump in.
Yeah,
Larry,
go ahead.
That's I think the critical question for you and your neighbors. And I think you and your neighbors are really the only people that can give us guidance on this issue. So I think what you just said is that's the framework for part of the discussion of the building as a building that merits saving.
All right, we got a couple more people, Larry. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to try to button this thing up. We're going to go back to Joe Palmer. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, Dan, thank you. And Dave, I appreciate you standing up to all this. It's a very passionate subject, as you can tell. And hopefully the Planning Commission agrees, the building does not represent a significant cultural or community value. Would you consider single-family homes in place of that building and demolishing the building and then going back to the R80, R60 style homes?
Well, I agree. Again, I have a partnership. I can't just give an answer on that. And collectively, as a partnership, that's something that has to be discussed amongst us as far as that situation.
And if the partnership declines, would the property then be sold back into the market?
Again, Joe, I couldn't comment on it because I have 3 other partners. So I can't really comment on it until we collectively would get together.
Okay, and thanks again, Dave, for your interest in this project and again for standing up to all this.
All right, we're going to go back to Nancy Coyne, or that's Gia.
Yes, thanks, Dan.
No problem.
So, you were talking about parking earlier and the 26 units. If there are 2 people per unit, just, you got to look for max damage, and each person has a car.
He was going to have 60 lots or 60 parking spots.
Right. So if you have 56 couples, say for instance, 56 people in there with 26 units, and each has a car, that leaves basically 4 extra spots for guests. So what are we doing with guests for these people, for parking on the street for till 2 a.m. or, what that?
Yes, actually.
It's still kind of, it's good that there's 60 parking spaces, but I still don't think, this is just my math, that it's going to add up to enough to accommodate the people living in the units as well as any overflow.
I understand, and that is still that goes back to you're allowed to park on the street until 2 o'clock in the morning, or is it 3 o'clock in the morning? I think it might be 3 is when they start ticketing. But yeah, so that will be handled if people start parking overnight. I'm going to move on, try this Samsung one more time. Are you there, Samsung? Are you there? All right, we're going to go to Dean Ward. Dean, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you, gentlemen, for taking all of our questions today. Dave, I just had one question. I know you were involved in the Painesville project. How did that turn out? And what was the the outcome of that, basically, from where the old lake east
Yeah,
property.
I believe that with the criteria in that particular area, that we had proposed the building with the VA, we had a written contract ready to go to put a 17,000 square foot building. I think that the city at that point, they still had a lot of things that are undecisive, that's why it is still vacant today. And we put a lot of time into trying to jumpstart that project up there, but unfortunately, you got an 8-acre piece of property that's 1 block from the county seat there in the downtown area of Painesville. It's very hard to try to stimulate to get people and organizations to go out to Painesville. We had some pretty good synergy there happening, but they still weren't ready to pull the plug yet.
And what kind of use was that? Was that residential as well?
Dean, that was going to be a total mixed use.
Okay.
And, in fact, we even had a project on the board that was going to be happen with another organization that was in Painesville, and then at the last minute, they decided not to go because of the economic factors happening within in the city of Painesville. So it's a lot of time, a lot of energy went spent over there. I wish we could have done more to get something going, but that's why it is where it is today. Still, there's nothing there happening.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, and then Dan, just one quick follow-up to
Yes.
I believe it was Gia when she was talking about the parking on the street.
Yes.
So potentially that parking on the street could go all the way up and around the corner and even down some of the other streets up until 3 a.m., correct?
I believe so, yes. It's similar to when we have basically any neighborhood in the area. I remember when I was younger, staying out late back when I used to do that. I remember having to call before 3 o'clock to make sure I didn't get a ticket.
Exactly. I think that's where I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for Gia, but I think that was where one of the concern was if there is a potential of a large line of cars, not overnight, but
Yes.
just, every night, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Just more parked cars on the street every single
Right.
day.
Exactly.
No, I hear you. I would think, and this is just me going off the top of my head. Every time I've driven past Browning in the last 10 years, I don't believe you guys use the parking on the street that often. If, let's say, all 26 units have friends over that day, that could back up, but I don't see that happening more than on possibly when we're having events downtown. You know what I mean? Reasons for them to all be having people over.
Correct. No, I understand. I just think that's was the concern was because I know that David alluded to when it was a school and when it was a senior citizen center, and we saw the picture where the lot was full, but that was during peak hours during the day when individuals mainly were at work, right?
No,
not necessarily on the weekend or not necessarily
weekend or at night when you guys are home.
Correct.
I got you.
So
and actually, that's something to bring up at the planning commission. So,
okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
If I may, Dean, I can say that there's a criteria that we fall under of how many parking spaces, for people in there, and we have more than what they're even requiring us to have, and so we have quite a cushion there compared to the norm. When you look at what the normal requirement is, we're well above that.
Okay, all right, and that's great. Again, I think from the chatter that I've heard, you have 8 houses, you're not going to have a bajillion guests on the street, right? For any extended period of time or stuff like that. But thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
No problem. I'm going to put you on mute now, and I'm going to take 2 more questions because it is past 9. Any other questions can be directed to us at City Hall, whether through, you can just email me. Please do not use our eGov system to contact me. I'm starting to have issues with it again. But my email address is djanderson, like Daniel Joseph, at willoughbyohio.com. But I'm going to go to Susan Waite. Just unmuted you. You there, Susan?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I have overnight guests, I can call into the police department for people to park on my street overnight. Will the apartments have the same ability?
That's actually a good question. I believe that you can, I believe they let it slide like once, but if it becomes a problem, they like will still ticket. But that's more of a question for our police chief, which I would actually ask that you reach out to him before planning commission, because that's something to be brought up. That makes sense?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And we're gonna go, I'm gonna mute you and I'm gonna head down to Donna Castrovins. Donna, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I agree with everybody who's made the comments regarding the one-bedroom apartments over there. And I'm sorry, did you mention, Dave, what is the length of the leases that will be over there?
When you say length of leases, mean somebody.
Will they be 1-year leases, 2-year leases?
I believe they'll be pretty again, we're having Brad handle that, but I'd rather him explain it, but I believe it'll probably be 1-year leases, which is the norm with all apartments. I don't know any apartments that have longer leases. I'm not, that's not my expertise, but I don't know too many have that longer leases than that. I think we're pretty much staying with the norm on that, Donna.
Okay, because with a 1-bedroom unit, basically, what I'm picturing, what you're describing is an updated boarding house. You've got a small unit and, you don't really have the answers tonight to, I think, ease everybody's minds about what's going on over there. I moved here from an area where developers came in and promised the world to the City Hall and promised the residents, did beautiful updates, made gated communities, and today they are Section 8, high crime areas, and have literally ruined the neighborhoods. So with all the apartments we have, and I hope before the next building, somebody can come out with an exact total of how many apartment rental units do we have within a 1-mile radius of downtown Willoughby? Because I think maybe we need to start looking at is, how can we get more single family homes? Because people are always asking, let me know, is anything for sale around there? Is any houses going up? And no one has ever said, I'm dying to move into an apartment in Willoughby. So I hope this administration will really give a good thought to this, because this affects more than just the immediate streets around this apartment building. Thank you.
You're welcome, Donna. And actually, like I said to a couple different people, you should go and speak to the planning commission with those points. And that would be the best way. This is more just to get information out so that when you guys decide to go in front of planning commission, you guys have some, I would say, understanding of what actually is there, so that we're just not arguing about stuff that isn't true. So I'm actually going to end this meeting, but I do want to point out a couple things. One, reach out to us at City Hall. You can call the mayor's office. You can reach out to me. You can call or reach out to any councilman. We're all available to talk. I do want to thank Dave for showing up tonight. You handled most of the questions very well. Some of them you didn't give the answers that the residents wanted, but that's for that happens. Daryl, thank you very much for being here and answering everything about zoning and like what the process is. And thank you, Mayor, for everything. But before I sign off, I do want to say one thing. If any of you guys like making cupcakes, Elisa Novak did a hell of a job tonight in the background. And that's one of her things that she liked. And I don't think I could have done this meeting without her. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Elisa. You went above and beyond tonight. And with that, I'm going to end the meeting. So good night, everybody.
Good night.